So today, we're still a couple of days away from needing them, but today we are putting steers out of what we call our Alamo pasture into our ironwood trap, or our ironwood section. This pasture is a square mile. It goes a mile right up this fence line to the highway, and a mile over and a mile back, and then back over this way. So this is a square mile. We're gonna put right at 100 head of cattle in here, and they will go to the Mike Survey roping next week. We just wanted to get out of this pasture so that we had them a little bit closer whenever we needed to gather them on Monday. And while I was over here, I took a second. I guess I can get over this fence. I'll just open the gate. While I was over here, I know Keith's looking for me, wondering where I'm at, but I took a minute while I was coming to put together a float and a float rod to put on this water trough that I had to shut off the other day. So this is a brass float rod right here. It's got a swivel on the end of it. This swivels. And then I put this metal ball on there. It's kind of non-destructible. There's not a lot of water pressure back here because this water line runs 2 miles from the corrals. It runs a mile down into the corner and feeds some other drinkers, and then it runs a mile over this way. There are 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 6 drinkers on this line that comes off the highway up there and into our corrals. So not a whole lot of water pressure, but you don't need a lot. You just need enough to keep things full. And I put this float back together so that we can fill this back up. There is a big dirt tank up there in this pasture that these cattle can water on, but they just like having fresh water, and we like providing it for them. So we got this trough back up and running. It'll take probably most of the day for this trough to fill with no more water than is running right there. Okay, we're four-wheeling today, four-wheel cowboying today. It's just Keith and I in this pasture. We've already put some cattle in here, and you can see some of them hung around right here. They're full. They're going to be good steers for the roping. Okay, let's go get around the back end of this pasture and see what we can find. We have 4 pastures that come together right here with this little set of pens that we use. So this is the Houston pasture. Here's the Alamo pasture. This is called the Ironwood section. That pasture over there we call the South Coyote pasture. And we've got our crossbred yearlings turned out over there in the Houston. And there's 4 drinkers right here on a water line that I was telling you about when I was fixing this one that feeds all of these drinkers. And then there's 2 drinkers up on the other end of the coyote pasture. So there's a drinker in the North Coyote pasture and a drinker in the South Coyote pasture. It works out pretty good. These cattle like coming in here, and that drinker on the outside where those crossbred yearlings are, there's no corral around it. They can just come up there and drink without coming into a corral. Same way with over here in this other corner. Anyway, I think we are just about gathered out of this pasture here. I think we're missing maybe 1. He could have died, you never know. Or we could be off 1 on our count. That's a possibility also. They just have to hear you and they'll come. It's kind of the way people are. I guess. I just made that up. Anyway, I'm sirening up these heifers. They haven't come in for a few days. And I was sirening them over there by the corrals, and apparently they didn't hear me. But I mean, when I got out here in the pasture and they heard this siren, woo! 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 They came running. Eight of them. Just as pretty as you please right there. They didn't hear me a minute ago, but now they do, and here they are. So we will feed them a little bit. Don't want to trick them. Don't want to call them in and then not give them anything. Okay, ladies. You ready for a little something? A little treat? We'll give them about a half a bag. They don't need much more than that. Just a little bit to reward them for running over here. Look at them. Come on. Come get it. Come get it. I just made them 8 little piles right there. They can kind of scatter out that way. Now we're gonna go find some other heifers over in the next pasture over. They are not as cake broke. I did a little work on my toolbox today. I drilled it and put these little eyelets in. 3 of them. Then I've got tie ropes on my headache rack here. And it just gives me a place where I can tie a propane bottle on, or a bucket, or whatever I need whenever I'm out running about and don't want something blowing off. A lot of times when you pull a trailer with these, it creates a little current of air up against the cab. That way you can secure it on there with a tie rope. These cows have gotten plum gentle. Plum gentle. I love it. That crooked horn cow right there was pretty wild. Little bull calf, he's growing. Okay, we'll leave him to it. Let's go see if we can call in another little batch of heifers. The heifers, I guess, are not siren broke enough to even pay any attention. The big bunch of little heifers, because I didn't see a one. And I came around the outside perimeter of that pasture. In the pasture right next to them are a bunch of little bull calves that we have. And the other day when I replaced the switch inside here for my siren, they didn't have a 30 amp switch like I needed. All I had was a 20. And so I put a 20 amp switch in here. And I guess I blew my siren enough coming around those heifers that I burned up my switch. So I saw a little dab of bull calves in here. In fact, there's only like 5 of them right here. But I am going to pull in here, and there's 6 of them, I guess. Without a siren, I'm going to at least feed the little calves that are right here. That one right there should have went in the roping pen. Come on, calves. Come on, calves. Okay, that's all I can do right here. I think if I had a siren, I could probably call a few more in, but I don't know, that road behind me is pretty noisy. So they might not even hear the siren. Well, I'm just about done for the day. I'm back over here where we gathered these cattle this morning out of our Alamo pasture. We were missing 1 steer, and I thought maybe he would, you know, find his way up in here, be hanging out with maybe some of these cattle that are through the fence, or I am going to go back down this fence line right here. He could be down along this fence wanting in here with these other cattle, or he could be dead. We had a little nitrate poisoning going on, which is when you have really lush green feed growing like we've had the last couple of weeks, and then it freezes like it did last week. It got pretty cold here and froze the tops of a bunch of this feed. It turns that feed into a poisonous feed, and it eventually changes back, but it takes 5 or 6 days for it to do that, to not be toxic. So we could have lost him. We didn't find a carcass though. And then I also wanted to get back over here and check this water that I fixed up with this new float rod and this ball, and it completely filled. So it's holding good. We've got fresh water in this corner. Next thing is I'm headed to Buckeye to pick up my semi that I took over there yesterday, to have a set of fenders mounted on there so that they wouldn't vibrate and crack and break off. But I was waiting for all of the traffic coming in and out of Phoenix to kind of settle down this evening before I started across there. So I'm going to drive back to the Krails on the 4-wheeler, get in my pickup, and drive over there. Should be, by the time I get back and get started across there, we should be in pretty good shape. So we'll leave you here with a good night and tell everybody thanks for joining us, and we'll see you tomorrow. Good night, everybody. Flake you out.